Section 42 of Greatheart. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Greatheart by Ethel M. Dell. Chapter 12. The Divine Spark. With the morning, Dinah found her anxieties less oppressive. Isabel was becoming so much more like herself that she was able to put the matter from her and, in a measure, forget it. Like Biddy, she began to hope that by postponing the evil hour they might possibly evade it altogether. For there was nothing abnormal about Isabel during that day or those that succeeded it. The time passed quickly. There was much to be done, much to be discussed and decided, and their thoughts were fully occupied. Dinah felt as one whirled in a torrent. She could not think of the great undercurrent. She could only deal with the things on the surface. How that week sped away, she never afterward fully recalled. It passed like a fevered dream. 2 more journeys to town with Isabel, the ordeal of a dinner at the house of a neighboring magnate, a much less formidable tea at the vicarage, on which occasion Mr. Gray drew her aside and thanked her for using her influence over Sir Eustace in the right direction, and earnestly exhorted her to maintain and develop it as far as possible when she was married. A few riding lessons with Scott, who always seemed so much more imposing in the saddle than out of it, and knew so exactly how to instruct her. A few wild races in Sir Eustace's car, from which she always returned in a state of almost delirious exultation, and then, night after night, the sleep of utter weariness, with Isabel lying by her side. The last night came upon her almost with a sense of shock. It had become a custom for her to sit in the conservatory with Sir Eustace after dinner, and here, with the lights turned low, he was wont to pour out to her all the fiery worship which throughout the day he curbed. No one ever disturbed them, but they were close to Isabel's sitting-room, where Scott was wont to sit and read, while his sister lay on her couch resting and listening. The murmur of his voice was audible to Dinah, and the knowledge of his close proximity gave her a courage which surely had not been hers otherwise. She was learning how to receive her lover's demonstrations without starting away in a fright. If he ever startled her, the sound of Scott's voice in the adjoining room would always reassure her. She knew that Scott was at hand and would never fail her. But on that last night, Sir Eustace was more ardent than she had ever known him. He seemed to be almost fiercely resentful of the coming separation, brief though it was to be, and he would not suffer her out of reach of his hand. Wedding presents had begun to arrive, and in some fashion they seemed to increase his impatience. "I can't think what we're waiting for," he said, with his arm about her, drawing her close. "All this pomp and circumstance is nothing but a hindrance. It's you I want, not your wedding finery. You had better be married first and get the finery afterwards, as it isn't to be in town." "Oh, but I want a big wedding," protested Dinah. "It's going to be such fun." He laughed, holding her pointed chin between his finger and thumb. "I believe that's all you care about, you little heartless witch. I don't count at all. You'd have enjoyed this week every bit as well if I hadn't been here." She winced a little at his words, for somehow they went home. "There hasn't been much time for anything, has there?" she said. But I've enjoyed the motor rides, and I ought to thank you for being so very good to me." He kissed the quivering lips, and she slipped a shy arm round his neck, with the feeling that she owed it to him. But she did not return his kisses, for she was afraid to feed the flame that already leapt so high. "You've nothing to thank me for," he said presently, when she turned her face at last abashed into his shoulder. "I may be giving more than you at this stage, but it won't be so later. You shall have the opportunity of paying me back in full. How does that appeal to you, Daphne the Demure? Are you going to be a good little wife to me?" "I'll try," she whispered. "And give me all I ask? Always?" "I'll try," she whispered again, more faintly, conscious of that terrifying sense of being so merged into his overwhelming personality that the very breath she drew seemed not her own. He lifted her into his arms, holding her hard pressed against the throbbing of his heart. "You wisp of thistledown," he said. "You feather. How have you managed to set me on fire like this? I think of nothing but you, the very wonder of you, day and night. If you were to slip out of my reach now, I believe I should follow and kill you." Dinah lay across his breast in palpitating submission to his will. She could hear his heart beating like a rising tempest, and the force of his passion overcame her like a tornado. His kisses were like the flames of a fiery furnace. She felt stifled, shattered by his violence. But in the room beyond, she still heard that steady voice reading aloud, and it kept her from panic. She knew that she only had to raise her own voice, and he would be with her. Greatheart of the golden armor, strong and fearless in her defense. Sir Eustace heard that quiet voice also, as one hears the warning of conscience. He slackened his hold upon her with a quivering, half-shamed laugh. "Only another fortnight," he said, "and I shall have you all to myself, all day and all night, too." He looked at her with sudden critical attention. "You had better go to bed, child. You look like a little tired ghost." She did not feel like a ghost, for she was burning from head to foot. But as she slipped from his arms, the ground seemed to be rocking all around her. She stretched out her hands blindly, gasping, feeling for support. He was up in a moment, holding her. "What is it? Aren't you well?" She sank against him, for she could not stand. He held her with a tenderness that was new to her. "My darling, have I tired you out? What a thoughtless brute I am." It was the first time she had ever heard a word of self-reproach upon his lips. The first time, though she knew it not, that actual love inspired him, entering as it were through that breach in the wall of overbearing pride that girt him round. She leaned against him with more confidence than she had ever before known, dizzy still, and conscious of a rush of tears behind her closed lids. For that sudden compunction of his hurt her oddly. She did not know how to meet it. He bent over her. "Getting better, little sweetheart? Oh, don't cry. What happened? Did I hurt you? Frighten you?" He was stroking her hair soothingly, persuasively, his dark face so close to hers that when she opened her eyes, they looked up straight into his. But she saw naught to frighten her there, and after a moment she reached up and kissed him apologetically. "I'm only silly, she murmured confusedly. Good night, Apollo." And with the words she stood up, summoning her strength, smiled upon him, and slipped free from his encircling arm. He did not seek to detain her. She flitted from his presence like a fluttering white moth, and he was left alone. He stood quite motionless in the semi-darkness, breathing deeply, his clenched hands pressed against his sides. That moment had been a revelation to him also. He was abruptly conscious of the spirit so dominating the body that the fierce, ungoverned heart of him drew back, ashamed, as a beast will shrink from the flare of a torch, and he felt strangely conquered, almost cowed, as though an angel with a flaming sword had suddenly intervened between him and his desire. The madness of his passion was yet beating in his veins, but this was another and a stronger element, before which all else became contemptible. The soul of the man had sprung from sleep like an awaking giant. Half in wonder and half in awe, he watched the kindling of the divine spark that outshineth every earthly fire. End of section 42.